All right. Hello there, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tapcaf Transmissions. I am your host, as always, Corey. Joining me is the other host of Tapcaf Transmissions, the Anakin to my Obi-Wan. We have Justin EckhartsLadder. How are you doing?
Finally acknowledging that I've got better hair and that you are a voluntary celibate. I love it.
I wasn't sure how you'd feel about the role assignment there, but
Are you serious? I mean, have you seen those abs in episode 3 when he stands up? Oof.
are you thinking about Kylo when he takes his shirt off, or did that just get inherited down through?
Controversial take. Maybe Anakin's more ripped than Kylo. He's at least more shredded.
Look, I can easily see Adam Driver as Hayden Christensen's grandson. Like
Oh
that
yeah,
that's an
for sure.
underreported fact, I think.
hmm
But
Especially if they mingle in with some dark hair genes like they did.
yeah, so there we go. That is the opening of our episode on a little book called Star Wars Brotherhood by Mike Chen. We're going to be talking about all of that today. Before we get into that though, any Star Wars news come up that you want to cover? We're a week out from Obi-Wan, we're a week out from Star Wars Celebration, so I'm sure next week we are going to be talking about Obi-Wan as well as any of the initial news coming up from there, but
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing was probably the Vanity Fair article that came out,
right.
which I guess didn't have a whole lot of news. I guess the biggest thing would be release order.
Well,
We
also
know
the John Watts, I guess, TV show, was it?
that Grammar Rodeo, is that the
Yeah. So
yeah. So we'd heard about that a little bit. The rumor was that it was going to come out during the High Republic.
yeah.
Now we know, in fact, that it will be coming out in the post Endor era. They describe it like Spielbergian in that
hmm
it's going to be kind of an adventure film, probably or adventure series, kind of coming of age with young actors,
Yeah.
which is kind of unfortunate because it comes later on in an article that spent some time talking about how shitty fans are to young actors in particular. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the other thing from that was the implication that Solo. One of the takeaways from making Solo was that recasting Han was a thing that they shouldn't have done.
mhm.
Uh, which I think that's the wrong lesson to take from Solo, but
You see, I don't actually think that's what Kathleen Kennedy is trying to say there.
okay.
Um, because I think that was a bit of poor editorial work
I read the
because
original though, and like I don't see how it could mean anything else. Like
okay, but what's the
I don't think it was a shot at Alden specifically, like a lot of people seem to be portraying it as. Just that
but
it's
that's
not
not
something
her
that they should
quote though.
do.
But what I'm saying is that's not her quote. Her quote is unless there's hold on, I'm gonna pull it up right now. Um, so here, I'm gonna read the entire I'm going to read the entire paragraph to you, and I'll make it clear which part is her quote and which part is
Right.
Anthony Breznikin. Anyway,
Did you read the original? Like they released the actual full text of
oh
what she
okay.
said.
Well, no, I didn't release the full text then.
I agree that taking it like just from the original article, it could mean a few more things, especially
hmm
because like E.K. Johnston said that some experience with the person writing the article had resulted in certain things being misconstrued in the past.
Yeah, he's kind of
But
known. Yeah.
but yeah, it's like the actual full text of the interviews was released, and
Okay.
the way
Fair enough.
Kathy was talking about it was uh like she remembers being there for like early days of like Indiana Jones and everything, and then being on set with Harrison as
hmm
Indiana Jones more recently, where it's like this is who Indy is, and so you can't really recapture that feeling. And that was more how it was phrased. So like there was a lot going around of
Fair
like, oh,
enough.
she's saying Alden sucks. It's like, no, I don't think that's a reasonable read on what she said. But I do think that what she was saying was the idea that they could go back and tell stories in that time period with new
hmm
actors wasn't something they would be leaning on. And I think there's
Yeah.
more to that than recasting, but they've had a lot of
Yes.
like going back in time and recasting that's been successful.
hmm
And like the Lando show is kind of the same thing where they're doing that. And I'm just kind of wondering now, is that one of the projects that's going to be kind of
Yeah,
shelved?
that one's definitely feels like it's one that could be shelved. Um, yeah, okay, that's a great bit of insight. Then I didn't know that they had actually released the whole kind of script there. For me, the issue isn't I don't think, for one, I'm really glad they didn't go with that impersonator that everyone wanted them to go with. I think
Yeah.
that would have been awful. I think Alden was pretty much as good as you could get. I don't think the issue is actually replacing the actor. I think the issue is more that it's going to be tough to find a compelling movie or to sell a compelling movie all
Yeah.
about one character's backstory, which is why I think some of these things have now been shuffled off to TV shows. Like, I think they kind of realized the same thing about Boba Fett, whereas it's difficult to make, okay, we're going to learn more about Boba Fett, a compelling sell for a movie.
Hmm.
But for a TV show, I think it makes more sense. And probably the same with Kenobi as well.
Yeah, like if it had been framed more that way, like I'd agree with that a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Like I do really enjoy Solo, but it is a movie where it's like, okay, did this need to be made this way? And I think that played into how it performed a lot more than necessarily
Mm-hmm.
uh, because of any specific issues with like Alden or anything else like that. So I would just be more concerned that uh, in stories where it does make sense to have these characters, that they're going to be a lot more limited in what they do, or that the
Mm-hmm.
only way we're going to see any of them is if we have more like de-aged Mark Hamill and stock footage of Carrie Fisher or something.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the problem with Solo, like for me, it was a perfect storm of bad. Like, I think everything about the movie, I think the movie's got a lot of heart, and I think it's fun, but I don't think it's can be explained as a marketing failure like some people describe it as. Like, uh, Disney marketed the movie like they just did.
Yeah,
People knew about the movie. Um, I think the like for one, the story itself isn't super compelling. There's a fun cast, there's fun characters, but like it's just not a very exciting, especially compared with something like Rogue One or compared with a
yeah,
main Star Wars movie. Um, I think the film is the way it's filmed makes it just feel very boring and muddy, and I think that really detracts from what should have been a vibrant adventure. So like, yeah, I think there's a lot that went into Solo not doing well, and to say it's just the fact that it was Han Solo or Alden is a little too simple.
yeah. And I don't think that was necessarily what it was getting entirely reduced to. Just that there was that element
Hmm.
of that being a takeaway from it, and
Yes,
I do disagree that that is what they should have
agreed.
taken from it. But I'm
Hmm.
also not someone who was like super big on the whole hashtag make Solo 2 happen thing, because like
No, I
that's
think
like
it's
saying we need a
mediocre.
movie about Darth Vader. Like, oh, we need a dedicated Darth
Exactly.
Vader. We had that's what they're
Six
they
of them.
all are.
Yeah.
And like the follow up to what Han is doing in Solo is like you basically get to episode 4. Like maybe there's
Hmm.
another couple smuggling
There's
adventures
books
in
and
there, but like what
comics or
happens?
maybe a TV show. Yeah, I totally agree. I think like listen, I don't want to. I'm a little bit happy that Solo didn't do so super well because I feel like it's a pretty mediocre movie. And I don't want Star. And this is gonna be a shot at Marvel. I feel like Marvel is happy to put out a bunch of those movies because they've gotten the formula down so well. Not saying that there aren't good Marvel movies as well. I haven't seen the new Doctor Strange movie yet, but it seems cool. Um, but for me, a lot of Marvel movies feel kind of mediocre,
Hmm.
and I think Star Wars was at risk for going down that path with a potential Solo movie, a potential Boba Fett movie, potential whatever else. So yeah, I don't want a Solo 2 movie. I don't want them to squeeze blood out of a stone. Like, if you want to include young Solo in TV shows in certain ways, I'd be cool with that. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want there to be a movie for everything.
One of the things that was kind of encouraging between Rogue One and Solo, and that's kind of moved into the new shows as well. Which they might have moved away from it now with how much everything is kind of going to be tying into the Mandalorian style. Was that it did seem like there was going to be more of an emphasis on using the universe as a backdrop to tell these different types of stories. Where like Bad Batch is very different from what you'd get in the Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett. And while there are that grouping of like Mando, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka that do seem to be a lot more tied together, a lot more in that style. We do have the Bad Batch. It seems like Acolyte is going to be its own kind of genre specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I enjoy Marvel movies, but they are a lot of like very tonally similar. They're
Hmm.
sticking a lot to the same stuff. and some of them have broken from that mold again, and
Yeah, for
there's
sure. And I
also
think
some
those are the
like
ones
Dark
people
World that
like.
suck, but uh,
Yeah. But like people talk about the Thor movie so positively, the
the
most
third
recent
one,
one.
yeah,
Yeah, because it did that. Whereas like a movie like I think Iron Man 2 is one that people don't like, and it's
yeah,
partially because it just feels like this is something they had to do so they could, eventually tell another story.
yeah,
And I don't want Star Wars to be like that. And if it is going to be like that, I'd rather it be in TV form.
yeah.
So,
There is a double-edged sword to that where uh doing too many different types of things, people will inevitably not like some subset of them because it's not a style that particularly fits maybe what their vision is for Star Wars or what
mhm.
they're interested in. So I think the biggest thing for people is would just be to not take that too much to heart if not everything speaks to you, because I'd
Mhm.
really hate for them to just say like every Star Wars movie, every Star Wars show, every Star Wars book has to fit this mold. And that's one of the things that uh they almost ran into a bit too much with some of the later phases of the expanded universe and some of the books, where it's very much this one kind of thing that either you like or you don't,
Mhm.
and it ends up a lot of Troy Denning.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Um, totally agree. So yeah, that was kind of one big takeaway from that article. Call it a takeaway or not. They did also mention about. I don't remember if this was from Dave or something else in the article about how there is a vision of kind of what we knew there being a big event behind the Ahsoka show and the other kind of shows in that era. So that's interesting, not surprising. And I guess the other big thing for me was how far behind it feels like they are on movies.
Yeah,
Um, the next movie will be the Taika movie. It doesn't seem like that's anywhere close to like even starting pre-production, other than maybe a bit of writing. Um,
hmm,
Rogue Squadron is getting a rewrite. That seems to be pretty far off, and the Ryan Johnson movies are in they're in purgatory.
yeah,
Those are the movies where you know what, I wouldn't be surprised if they never happen, um, and not because of the Lucasfilm not wanting Ryan Johnson, although maybe that's the case. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like so he might have had such a bad experience with Star Wars and like certain aspects of the fan base that like he just signed that huge deal with Marvel. Maybe he just does. Maybe he
with
makes movies.
Netflix.
Or sorry, with Netflix. Yeah, sorry, with Netflix. Maybe he makes movies with them instead.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that going either way. I feel like part of what they're doing with movies is that they have a lot of options lined up as like
Hmm.
potential things now, because they did seem to start off like 2019 to 2020 thinking like, okay, we've got all these movies planned and that's going to be how we go. Well,
Hmm.
actually, even before then, because
Yep.
God, COVID really
Hmm.
squeezes time. But yeah, like they did move to TV shows over that, and who knows? I doubt they want to like cut off their options for the TV show or for the movies they had planned, but it does seem like that's not a focus. So
Just they're so wildly successful, like with Disney Plus. It seems. Um, yeah, I don't know. It makes sense, and it also seems like they want somebody who they can lock down and have Star Wars be their thing. Um, so maybe that's not Ryan Johnson. Like maybe he's got too much else going on to really want to, dedicate more of his life to Star Wars, especially where it's not like one of the saga films. It's Ryan Johnson Star Wars or whatever else. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know about that because it seems like with everything they've been doing with Star Wars, especially, they do want a pretty wide variety of directors who are pretty notable for other things and
Hmm.
who do have other things going on. Like some
Hmm.
of it is crossover with Marvel with Taika, but like Taika's also got his own other stuff going on. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
I
the
don't know.
biggest thing with Ryan Johnson's thing is that it was going to be a trilogy, and
Hmm.
now trilogies seem to be what they're really going away from.
Yeah.
So who knows?
And that really also impacts his ability to do other things, like
Yeah,
especially if they want to kind of avoid because the article also kind of mentions, I don't know if the full article does, but Anthony talks about kind of the obvious lack of cohesion with the sequel trilogy, which is not an argument anyone here is probably unfamiliar with. So if that's something they want to avoid with a new trilogy, maybe they want someone kind of signed on working on these projects, kind of, so they don't get the James Cameron Avatar thing. So, and like if you're a director who wants to do other works, that's not going to be as easy for a while. So
Yeah. But we'll see what happens. It'll definitely be at least a few years before we see anything else out of movies. And apparently, well, it'll probably be like video games for a while, where we have a bunch of announced, but
yeah,
don't end up hearing about them for a while. We are apparently going to be hearing about the KOTOR remake in the next couple months. We're going to get some more information on that, which I think everyone was assuming, but they have said now over the next couple months there will be stuff coming out.
I wasn't assuming that. It felt like it was further away than it actually is. I mean, I guess I have no idea where in development the game is. I thought that they'd be like a year or two away from showing off anything, but I guess they've been working on it for a while. I don't know.
They had like a quarterly report from the company that owns the company that's making the game. So Aspire is owned by another company who is owned by this company that was doing their quarterly report, and I think that's where I saw that they were where they announced they were going to be showing more information from that. It was weird because the article was trying to present it as like there was this news now that this other company was going to be stepping in to help out Aspire with it. But the company that was allegedly doing that was the company that owns Aspire anyways. So it was like the most non-news, we need to get through an article quota for the day thing for the site.
Yeah.
But it did have at least some of
It's
the
actually just moving
there.
some bodies around.
Well, I don't think anything actually changed. It's just like they decided to make an announcement, like this this website decided to turn the fact that the company that owns Aspire was going to be more involved in the production, or was going to be involved in the production, which like I think that's just something you'd probably assume anyways, or would have been available information a while ago. It wasn't like something actually changed in production, just that. But anyways, so I'm looking forward to that. You want to get into Brotherhood? We're going to have a lot more to talk about next week with Celebration starting. But,
Let's get into Brotherhood. So this released a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
We both got hard. Oh, by the way, did you get your advanced copy for what's it called again?
The other one, the Lando and Luke one.
Yeah,
I got the ebook version. One. Yeah. So that's coming out end of next month, I think. So we'll probably try to work that one in, because I know you were really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I did my control offs of it already, so it should be good. I can't say anything else, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, Brotherhood. We've got by Mike Chen. Has he written a Star Wars novel before? I don't think so. No. Certainly the little author's blurbs make it seem like it was kind of a big thing for him, and he was super excited to write Star Wars, which is nice. And it kind of makes me a bit disappointed to say that I didn't love this book.
Okay.
As much as I thought I would. There are parts that I really like. I like the acting. I like the writing of the characters. I like the acting as I read it in my head. No, I like the writing for the characters.
It was a lifetime performance for Hayden Christensen somehow. He really nailed it.
I like the characters. I like the interactions, but I just thought a lot of the plot was so dumb, and like I felt like a lot of what Obi-Wan was doing especially just made very little sense. And I to me, this book definitely felt like it was meant to be. I posted on Twitter about how it's like a 300-page long allegory for 9/11. I do kind of feel like that in a way, and like extremism and stuff like that. But I'm sure we'll get into it. What are your kind of opening remarks, though?
I actually thought it was really good. The plot elements I was less interested in, and like the actual stuff happening was less interesting to me than the examination of the characters, which I thought was the strongest element of the book.
Yeah, that part was great.
Because something that was a big influence for him that I think really comes across in this book is
Revenge of the Sith.
The Revenge of the Sith novelization, which he mentions in the acknowledgments of when he was pitching the book. That it was. I didn't see that. Like, when he pitched the book, this whole Sun Dragon thing was coming from the episode 3 novelization, how Matthew Stover was treating the characters there. So this feels like a really good extension of that, or an earlier version of that. And I like the... I was expecting more of, like, I think I even mentioned this on last week's episode when I was less familiar with the book. I was expecting it to be more of a going through the apprenticeship of Anakin up until the start of the Clone Wars, rather than being a story of like right at the start of the Clone Wars, right after Episode 2, within a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
So the Clone Wars are on. They've been going for a while, and this is kind of one of the first major assignments of Anakin separate from Obi-Wan, and just examining how their
Yeah.
relationship has evolved. Uh,
Yeah.
so it's basically all of that business on Cato Neimoidia. You finally
Mm-hmm.
find out what that is. But yeah, that's the plot.
Yeah, I agree. It did feel like kind of a prequel to the Revenge of the Sith novel in a really good way. I liked that. What I didn't like, and yeah, the character stuff was great. I just thought that the way Obi-Wan was written didn't make sense, and maybe that's kind of a reflection of the fact that like he is supposed to be a little bit mixed up, and all the Jedi are at this point, where like Obi-Wan is, he's a representative. He treats kind of the whole Clone Wars as Republic versus CIS way too much, especially at this stage. I feel like where like the main priority should be stopping the war. Like at the we'll do a brief plot summary because this is a bit of a newer book later. But at the very end, he's kind of on trial for his role in covering up or being involved in a bombing, and his big thing is like, you all need to join the Republic and and like help show the CIS this is not the way forward. And to me, that's just like so weird when it shouldn't be about that. It should be about like brokering peace. And again, maybe that's sort of the point of showing that the Jedi have lost their way. But there's kind of a lot of that in this book. Um, and I got more to talk about in a minute, but I don't want to go on for 5 minutes without letting you get a word in.
So maybe we should do the like a better summary first of what
Okay.
goes on. So basically, again, it's right after Episode 2. Anakin and Obi-Wan, or Anakin has become a Jedi Knight now. He's like very recently a Jedi Knight. I think we see the part of the ceremony here.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is reports of a bombing on Cato Neimoidia, where one of the like bridge cities has been partially collapsed by a bomb. And Cato Neimoidia is part of the Trade Federation, which is technically neutral, although Newt Gunray, not Gunray,
Mm-hmm.
is still leading the like extremist wing that has fully and openly sided with Count Dooku. So Obi-Wan is offering to go to Cato Neimoidia to be part of the investigation, be the Republic presence. There's already going to be a CIS presence there, and try to get to the bottom of what exactly has happened. So he goes. There's evidence that kind of points to the bombing being someone in the Republic being responsible for it, someone in the CIS being responsible for it, and from there he's working with a local Neimoidian guard, and they're trying to kind of get the
Mm-hmm.
truth out of like, oh, maybe we can use this as an opportunity to draw everyone closer together and show that uh, both ends are being kind of played against the middle by someone here. Maybe that can be used to broker a lasting peace. So he gets arrested after not pushing or not handing over information right away that he had found that could have implicated the Republic. He was trying to validate it first, and then the rest of it is just kind of an escape uh, from Cato Neimoidia for Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
As Anakin hears about it,
Shows up.
he
Yeah,
goes in
he's
to
with
help
some
Obi-Wan.
younglings.
He had sent Obi-Wan with a secret communicator, which is part of what screws over Obi-Wan in the first place, just in case Obi-Wan needed a call for help. Anakin comes in, they do their whole fighting their way out thing, and
Yep.
roll credits.
And they face off against the Asajj Ventress for the first time as well in
Yes.
this. Um, but yeah, and if you guys are wondering, Cato Neimoidia, you see it a bit in the Clone Wars, but it's also the planet where Plo Koon is killed in Order 66.
Yes.
So like you can imagine one of those, they're flying around those kind of bridge structures. You can imagine one of those falling. Pretty, it's a pretty interesting location. I like that a lot. We visit some different parts of the city. Like a lot of it's quite opulent, but we also visit some of the kind of seedier districts. Like Asajj has, um, she like has a residence in like a basically like a den somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I guess one of my big problems with this novel is, yeah, so Obi-Wan is dispatched as because they really play up his the negotiator role in this book, which I liked, but it just he had a really frustrating kind of, no one in the galaxy will understand what I'm trying to do but me. So he finds this. For one, he goes in and he's not allowed any contact with the Republic whatsoever. Somewhat because of Count Dooku, but I mean that alone is just a little bit ridiculous. Where he's going to try to evaluate, the bombing to see, whether it was the Republic. He never even assumes that it can be, or whether it was something else. And like Corey mentioned, he finds this evidence, and never once does he think that the Cato Neimoidians could recognize that there's evidence of this, but like it may not be all that it appears. He keeps it all secret. He doesn't talk to anyone, and I just found that whole thing really frustrating and like I guess a little bit contrived for me.
Yeah, I don't know. Like he gets enough of a. I don't see it as super far from what something Obi-Wan would do, because it's not like Obi-Wan was like Anakin levels of thinking the Republic can do no wrong, but
Mhm.
Obi-Wan has always like clearly believed as
Yes.
the whole connection between the Jedi and the Republic, and like he's yelling that at burning Anakin down in Mustafar later,
Mhm.
that his loyalty is to the Republic rather than just to being the Jedi Order as this independent
Yeah,
entity.
I think that part's fine. My issue is more like Obi-Wan is 100% in the wrong with what he does here. He
Yeah,
basically steals evidence and covers it up. And that's wrong. Like,
yeah.
it's, and I guess the book doesn't really address that. It's more like Obi-Wan being kind of sly, and like it really gives him, like, it spends the whole book talking about how trying to, like, Anakin's got all these prejudices against the Neimoidian people. Um, and Obi-Wan kind of tries to dissuade him from that. And then he kind of plays into that himself by not even
Well,
trusting
I
them
think the
with
book makes a
evidence.
point out of that, though. Like, that's what the whole end sequence is meant to be of the trial, where Obi-Wan realizes, like, he might not be as overt as Anakin in what he's thinking, but he's kind of still playing into the same attitudes, and he was ultimately wrong
Mm,
in what he tried to do. Because, like, the other guard confronts him
mhm.
about that and says, "Hey, if you had told me, you would not be in this situation right now
Yeah, fair
because
enough.
I would have known what to do. I could have helped you with that, and that's why I told you I had a lead. But now you've kind of fucked us all over."
I guess it's frustrating. I guess what I found frustrating then is the fact that the whole book is basically written around that premise, and the payoff comes kind of in one sequence.
Mhm.
I guess I guess it could have been handled with more nuance, and it
Yeah,
just for me doesn't really make for a very interesting plot as well, which I think is maybe the worst problem.
fair
Like
enough.
the only evidence that we like, the evidence of it being Republic or CIS bombing, is the fact that the bombing techniques are basically the same as either the clone troopers use or the battle droids use, which fair enough. But I mean, like, I would have liked to see kind of a more, look at how people are like actually reacting to the fact that this could be the Republic that bombed people, like,
Yeah.
or like this could be the CIS. Like there must be all these prejudices on Cato Neimoidia, especially where they have the ties with the Trade Federation, which themselves are still supposed to be somewhat independent. I just think they could have done a lot more kind of interesting work with that than just saying, okay, people get really angry and throw a sham trial, and Obi-Wan is declared guilty within 2 seconds. You know what I mean?
I mean, it wasn't really a sham trial. He did those things. Like you were,
Yeah.
it's what you were
No,
already
you're
saying,
right.
that
You're right.
he had done these things and he was responsible for it. And then that's
Mhm.
ultimately what the trial is about. Where
Yeah.
it kind of goes wrong is the way that like a lot of Star Wars ends up being too simplified. Where like ultimately
Mhm.
because Qatar tries to shoot him, like it
Mhm.
just turns into, oh well, they're the bad guys at the end of the day. He's the one that's
Yeah,
aligned with the
exactly.
cause of interest. So that gets
Yeah.
kind of simplified out the
I,
window.
I I think that explains really well kind of my issues. Like, yeah, there's no like Obi-Wan should not get a get out of jail free card. Like Obi-Wan should not be allowed to step foot on Cato Neimoidia. It's like on my bachelor party, my buddy Mike took a beer pitcher out of the bar we were at, and we started drinking in the street. Mike's now banned from that bar. Like that should be Obi-Wan on Cato Neimoidia from this point. Like there's no excuse for what he did, and he interfered with a mass casualty investigation to protect the Republic. Um,
Yeah.
and like
And
he may have helped do some
everyone's
damage,
response
but
later, I was expecting like some kind of dressing down of both him and Anakin by the council, and like, want to keep the job? Wait, what?
That was kind of sick. Oh, the negotiator. It's like you got really low standards. Like Coleman Trevor must have been awful.
One thing that like some of the earlier books had that kind of got repeated here that I've always been uh, less on board with was the whole Mace and Yoda being like so pro Palpatine for so long.
Hmm.
Where yeah, like there's like a 3 week period where their opinion ends up changing. Where I don't expect them to think like from the start like, oh, he's a Sith Lord or something, but it the way it ends up getting played in certain places is that they're cordial with him, but they don't trust how much he's bringing power to himself.
Hmm.
But then there's elements of like the episode 3 novelization and here and some other books where it's like
Yeah.
Yoda and Mace think that Palpatine's their best friend, and Obi-Wan's the only one in here that's thinking like, hey, maybe him putting the Jedi in the army is not actually that epic, and what he's doing is not that trustworthy. And then
Yeah. Maybe
Anakin
we
and
shouldn't
Padme
be
are like,
joking about body armor.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And I will say, I liked. I hadn't read the bit about it being kind of a pitch almost tied in with the episode 3 novel, but it makes a lot of sense because you do get the dragon simile, I guess, which is very similar to in episode 3 or the episode 3 novel. But I also thought the Palpatine scene itself was also very, very good.
yeah,
Where I was like, man, I know what Palpatine's doing, and like I almost kind of trust him a bit here.
yeah.
Like I want to hang out with him.
Palpatine is probably my favorite handled character overall in the
Yeah, I thought
book.
he was really great. I wish there had been more. It makes sense why there's not, I suppose.
Yeah.
I Palpatine was good. I was a little. I didn't feel like Ventress added a whole lot. I
No.
guess. Um,
There were a
she could
lot
have
of
been
like
someone new.
yeah, there were a lot of cool tie-ins to other stuff, and I think Ventress was kind of meant to be part of that. But it
Mhm.
was one where it could have worked just as well being someone else. But
Yeah, I like they referenced that 2003 Clone Wars scene on Dantooine with Mace Windu, which was cool,
yeah,
where he destroys those big like pounders.
I did a
Um,
clip on that, and it's seems to be going places. So
oh, nice. I didn't see that, but yeah. So that was there. There were lots of little references, and like I was catching a bunch, and then there was also like times where like I knew that was a reference to something, I just couldn't remember what it
yeah,
was, which is kind of nice in a way.
yeah, there was a bunch of stuff from like KOTOR with Sertica Corporation still being
Mm.
around, the dynamic class freighters, what the Ebon Hawk is. So the
Oh,
thing that
okay.
Anakin is flying towards the end, what Anakin
Oh,
and
I
Mill
didn't
take.
realize that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's an old Ebon Hawk style ship.
Oh, jeez.
But what did you think about how Anakin was
uh,
explored here?
Anakin was okay. But Anakin and Padme, like Star Wars writers need to learn how to write mature relationships because Anakin and Padme are pretty much always written like infatuated high school loves in their first week of dating. Like
But
there's
that's
no
kind of
like
what they were. Like they weren't a mature relationship, or else Anakin would not have
yeah,
slaughtered a room full of children to.
I suppose, but like I'd st- I still like to like I think that Anakin should be immature and
Yeah,
like the arc from the Clone Wars with Space Papa John. What's his name? I forgot his name last week too.
Space Papa John, Dex.
Yeah, no, the separatist, the one who
Oh,
she had
Rush
a relationship.
Clovis.
Yeah, look up Rush Clovis. Look up Papa John right now before we continue.
Okay. Like I do agree with you in general though. Like I think it makes a lot of sense for Anakin to act the way he does. I feel like Padme gets kind of pulled into it a bit more. And okay, there's
If you
Rush
look up
Clovis.
if you look up Rush Clovis Papa John, someone on Reddit posted a screenshot of one of my old tweets.
Okay. Well, now that's just flexing.
But yeah, like for one, they can have depth. It's not just the way they talk and the way Anakin feels about her, which there is still obviously a degree of infatuation. That's fine, but it's like their big dates are like going out and she puts a flower on his head, or
Yeah.
like, which like a real relationship is a lot more than just exciting dates and giving each other trinkets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and like there's no
But
I
Padme
just
was like in a full place of responsibility since she was
mhm,
really young, so it's like as much as it fits Anakin's character more, like
mhm,
Anakin ends up being this kind of ability to live out a more free side to herself when they have that time to be together. So
mhm.
I don't hate it as much, but
It's just like I need and I just I've never or not frequently felt like there's depth in the relationship.
no.
And I think Anakin being immature is very important because everyone always talks about how Star Wars is about teaching young people, how to go into the world, and part of learning, part of that is learning how to, you know, love someone in a healthy way, which Anakin clearly does not.
Yeah. It's the
So
thing
it
Anakin literally never learns at any point in
yeah.
his life. Like he dies on the Death Star still thinking the exact same way. And then in
Mhm.
Legends, it perfectly fits in character for him to be harassing Luke about how Leia hasn't forgiven him yet. Like, good on you, Teresa Bakura.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So yeah, I guess in that sense it does. You're all right. It's just like I'm tired of cringing every time I read a Padme Leia scene
Padme Leia scene.
or Padme Luke.
Padme Luke.
Yeah, Padme Anakin.
Third try.
Third time's the charm. Jesus Christ, Editor Monkey, make sure you fix that up, please. Yeah, but but yeah,
I mean, Star Wars is a universe where the healthiest relationship ends up being a brother and sister relationship where they made out at one point. So, what can you expect?
yeah, yeah. I thought the horns were pretty good. You
Kind
know,
of. I don't know.
they supported each other well when their children went crazy and
Yeah.
started trying to murder people.
Winter and Akbar,
Yeah,
they're always there for each other.
that's not a relationship. That's just hot, steamy sex.
I don't think you want hot, steamy sex with Akbar, or else you just got lunch.
Yeah, yeah, maybe not. Love making session than a lobster roll. What more do you want?
Is that what he calls
Oh God, lobster rolls. I get little baby Akbars.
it?
Uh,
I hate us.
yeah, me too.
So remember,
I
we won't be on the podcaster stage at Star Wars Celebration next week.
yeah. Um, I did find it funny how throughout the novel, at the end, a lot of the novel, which I did like, is Obi-Wan trying to figure out exactly what's going on with Anakin
Yeah,
and Padme. And by Revenge of the Sith, he knows, and it's pretty clear he knows. In this, it seems like he still thinks it's more one-way infatuation. Like
yeah,
I think he realizes that Padme, likes Anakin, but he really feels like Anakin's infatuated with her. And I just wrote in my notes like he's gonna have the no simping talk to Anakin at
yeah.
one point.
He like realizes it by the end because he really just hasn't had a chance to see Padme
Hmm.
interact with Anakin yet, but he has seen Anakin's reaction to Padme so many times.
Hmm.
Like the arguably most embarrassing thing anyone has ever done in the start of episode 2 when he sees Padme again. Like
Hmm.
that's the worst thing anyone has ever
Yeah,
said.
it's
But
gotta be up there.
like now he's starting to see that Padme is kind of doing the same thing. And
Hmm.
he gets to like examine that compared to
He
his
doesn't quite
relationship with
realize.
Satine.
Yeah, he doesn't realize the depth kind of that they
Yeah.
have though,
He
and
does
maybe they
not know they're
don't.
married.
Yeah, he doesn't know they're married. He thinks it's something that he can talk Anakin out of,
Yeah.
and at the end he's like, I'll give him time to try to figure it out himself.
Yeah. Because he's still approaching it from the direction of like, okay, this is how I felt before I grew out of it. He will too. Like Obi-Wan has trouble thinking outside the confines of the Jedi Order,
And
but
plus, there's
there.
also like, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you can.
I was gonna say, and we learned in the Clone Wars that Obi-Wan really never did grow out of it,
Yeah,
because like he tells Satine like he would have left if
yeah,
she had said so, and he probably still would have.
yeah.
Um, he gets half chubbed every time Mandalore shows up on the HoloNet.
Dex really likes going at him about it too, but
Yeah.
I didn't realize Dex was such a talent card in the restaurant industry.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit much. I prefer Dexus being just a guy who like he's Dex, like he's been doing things. Like I don't know if he needs to be an information broker
Yeah.
necessarily.
Do you think
But
Talon Card opens at Denny's after he stops with the Smugglers Alliance? Like, is that what happens?
I think Talon Card probably opened a Denny's before then because he's so passionate about it.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Obi-Wan knows by the end of the Clone Wars as well, just that it is an
Mm-hmm.
established relationship. Like we
Yep.
see that in season 7, and he never does seem to have that conversation with Anakin. And that's something that the book does kind of hint at, that like maybe this would all go differently if someone would just have a conversation with Anakin as a human rather
Mm-hmm.
than as a Jedi. And we like Mill as a character is a youngling who's introduced in the book who has
I
more of an
liked her. Yeah.
emotional connection to the Force, and kind of tells Anakin at the end, "You don't always have to be basically the hero,"
Mm-hmm.
uh, which hits Anakin kind of hard. But like, there's
Yeah.
so many. Uh, there's so many moments in the book where it's just like, okay, if Obi-Wan was just willing to talk to Anakin like this, maybe it results in Anakin leaving the Jedi Order, but maybe you avoid a lot of the problems where Anakin is just so fundamentally incompatible with a lot of what he
Yeah.
ends up being expected of him. Though I did not like at all how Mace was handled in this. I'd have to go back through and see if it was mostly just through Anakin's perspective, where it would make more sense that he thinks Mace hates him. But like Mace may well have been walking past all these rooms yelling like "fuck you, Skywalker" every time, and I think there were scenes where like Obi-Wan was
Mace
even
left
commenting
another
on it.
deuce on my step this morning.
Yeah, like it's terrible. As much as I feel like Mace is kind of a symbol for the responsibility of the Jedi Order in like failing Anakin without taking
Mm-hmm.
away the responsibility that Anakin has for doing what he did, like
Mm-hmm.
it was a bit too overt there rather than just thinking like Anakin was acting unsuitably. It's like this almost deep personal hatred that Mace ends up
Yeah.
having for Anakin in this book.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of go back and forth on how I feel about that. Like, I think it is a valid interpretation if you go based on the movies. Kind of the little we get of Mace's character, how he's kind of evolved in the Clone Wars and more, a little bit
Yeah.
more difficult. I do like the idea though. That Mace really does have a problem with Anakin, and it's clear that certain people in the Jedi do. And I like that because it really, I think, is a nice payoff for that scene where Anakin comes to Mace Windu and tells him about
Yeah.
Palpatine. Because you see like how close he got to getting things right, and how like
Yeah.
he even proved Mace Windu wrong, and then he shows up and
Yeah.
he chops his fucking arm off. And
I don't know. Did you ever play the episode 3 game?
Mhm.
Like it was a pretty good game, but
You have a full fight with Mace Windu
yeah,
instead.
like the cutscene isn't I need to stop him from killing Palpatine so he can stand trial or whatever. It's just like he just fucking gives it to me.
Yeah, he just kicks Mace's ass. It's like
But
you got some time to regret it if you got to fight him for that long.
yeah, like Mace is obviously a lot of a hard ass and for various reasons, but it never
Mhm.
comes across in this as like, oh, Mace is this stern guy who Anakin feels dislikes him. Like it's very much singled out as Mace has a strong dislike that everyone knows about
Mhm.
for Anakin that just like he can't help but express
Yeah,
at every
that might be.
moment.
Yeah, unsurprisingly, I think Shatterpoint probably handles Mace a bit better,
Yeah.
given the fact that he's given so much time. Where he is kind of just like, it's not just an Anakin thing. Like he probably does have a dislike for Anakin because of he's skirting the Jedi's rules, and
Yeah.
there are issues with that. But this probably did go a bit too far, and of course results in Anakin pulling the classic, "Oh, sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Transmission's cutting out" thing.
Classic move. But that is what gives us the moment of bringing back in the Dantooine Clone Wars scene. So,
Yes, yes, agreed. That
who
was
can
so it's
who can
worth
blame
it.
him?
Yep. Um, One thing I also wanted to mention is how is Daddy Qui-Gon I have in notes here,
Yeah.
because it's just Qui-Gon, like everything could have been better if Qui-Gon was around. Like Anakin's basically fantasizing about having Qui-Gon as a father figure still.
Yeah. Well,
He's like so much better than everyone else. Which
that's
I
kind of
like that take on Qui-Gon
yeah.
actually.
I think that's kind of like the crux of the Anakin and Obi-Wan relationship, which is what I think the book does really well,
Mm-hmm.
of like figuring out why there's that dysfunction for them. Like
Mm-hmm.
they clearly do care about each other, but they're always competing with each other, and they're both trying to figure out like why did it change so much when
Mm-hmm.
Anakin became a Jedi Knight, and why are they able to work together better? And what they kind of like get to the edge of saying explicitly, but only sort of say explicitly here, was that like they were Qui-Gon almost pushed Obi-Wan into this role where he had to be a father
Mm-hmm.
figure for Anakin that neither of them really was ready for, and was like trying
Mm-hmm.
to replace Qui-Gon in that. And instead now like we get to the title of the book, that like they're more like brothers, and that's where the relationship is able to
Yeah.
take a better turn. And
Mm-hmm. Because there is a lot of push and pull, like more so that exists in a father son relationship. Not that there's not a push pull there, but they're learning from each other a lot,
mhm,
and yeah, it does feel more like like brothers, and that's kind of another issue where Anakin needed a father figure or at least some parental figure, and that's how Palpatine kind of worms his way in
yeah,
because he sees like the vulnerability there, and that's one thing the Revenge of the Sith novelization does very well, and that this does really well as well in the brief scene. Um, where I've compared, and this is kind of a gross comparison, but I do think it's
yeah,
appropriate. I've compared Palpatine to a pedophile before because he's written like that, where he finds basically um, a vulnerable individual without the support structure. It doesn't any sort of predator really. Um, so it's just like if Qui Gon were there, could have helped,
yeah.
or if yeah, it could have helped a lot.
I was trying to find the interview recently when you got into an argument on Twitter with someone about Anakin's responsibility versus like Mace's responsibility, and how the Jedi was
Mm,
responsible. Like, but
yeah,
there was
yeah.
some interview I remember George giving, and I just can't find it again, where I think George describes the original sin of Star Wars of like removing Anakin from his mother,
Hmm.
and how like Anakin needed that parental figure, whether it was going to be Shmi or Qui-Gon, and then he's taken from Shmi. I always feel like I'm saying her name wrong. It just feels weird to say, but but then Qui-Gon dies, and like the only one who's trying to or the only two who are really trying to give Anakin some level of what he needs rather than just expecting something from him are Obi-Wan and Palpatine. And Obi-Wan isn't really
Mm,
equipped to give Anakin what he would need to actually process what he's
yeah,
doing now in a way that Qui-Gon was probably uniquely positioned within the Jedi to do.
yeah,
So then like there's no getting him away from Palpatine.
yeah. That's totally right. And George Lucas has never really walked back his Jedi shouldn't have wives stuff.
Yeah.
Um, like I think he felt like that was always proper within the Jedi Order. I personally disagree with that,
Mhm.
and I think that's fine. Like I don't think that romantic love is any less important than a love between a parent and a child. But it's like but yeah, it's not natural, and it's natural to want to be around your family, and what they expect from Anakin to just not give a shit his mom dies and that like his life is falling apart, and like the only reason that he acts as a human basically is that he hasn't been brainwashed the whole time. um yeah, like the Jedi Order shouldn't have done that, and then I hope if we do get a look at kind of whatever comes next in Star Wars that they talk about kind of how there were some ideas there, like unhealthy attachment should definitely be avoided, but like that doesn't mean splitting families up and
Yeah.
stuff.
So according to Blaine in chat, that was J.J. Abrams who said that, not George Lucas. But I still agree with it either way.
Yeah,
Uh,
I agree.
but But yeah, like I that's one of the things that I like about the NJO, where it does kind of examine that it didn't really have much of a choice, but to examine the whole was Jedi, or is it right or wrong for Jedi to be able to have families, and where can that go? Where can that be a misstep, or where can that be
Hmm.
handled better? And then Vision of the Future does it as well, where
Hmm.
like everyone was just kind of going through the early parts of the expanded universe, thinking that that wouldn't be a thing, and then the prequels come
Hmm.
out, so they kind of stumbled into that plot point. But it's something that has been explored in universe and legend that
Yeah,
I think was handled pretty well there.
you're right. Nobody imagined that Jedi wouldn't be just clapping cheeks across the
Yeah.
galaxy before the prequels came out.
Well, we knew three Jedi. It was like Anakin,
Yeah,
Obi-Wan, and Yoda, and we know that like one of them had kids. So
yeah,
what? Do you,
exactly. And we know Yoda was probably,
yeah. Well,
yeah,
Yaddle can just confirm that, right?
yeah. You guys saw that stained mattress in the back of Yoda's hut. That wasn't.
I don't know
That
why
wasn't.
they put that in Lego Star Wars. It was
It's like the giant dildo weapon from Grand Theft Auto. Um, yeah. So I'm all for that discussion, and you know, one thing that like I pushed back against when I had that conversation is, you can't excuse Anakin ever,
no.
because you're still responsible for your choices at the end of the day. But you can't ignore the fact that he was completely failed by every
Yeah.
structure in his life. And one thing that I also push back against is the idea that Anakin chose to become a Jedi, so he has to accept his going away, the potential of his mom being slaughtered, him trying to ignore this love for this woman that he has basically since he's been a child. Like, for one, Anakin was a slave on a desert planet. He was freed before, the Jedi come, but let's be honest, he probably didn't have a spectacular life ahead of him. His mom was encouraging him to leave because she wanted him to have a better life. He signed up to be a Jedi believing in episode 1. He says this: you can't kill a Jedi. He believes there are these godlike mythical
Yeah.
figures that can do no wrong. Of course, a 10-year-old child wants to sign up for that.
Yeah,
um
like there are plenty of real systems in the real world where there's this idea of like, okay, you're preying on people who have no
yeah,
better options,
exactly.
and like it that isn't like
Informed
the
consent.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that isn't the sole problem with what Anakin does. Obviously, he goes on and does much worse things,
Hmm.
but like the fact that he ended up in that situation, that part up to that part was not his fault. Obviously, he
No.
like goes on and has
Yes.
terrible
He
things
doesn't
that he
handle it.
does, and it's just like you can understand the individual responsibility that people have for their own actions while also looking at how systems might have put them in a position to make those
Yes.
choices,
And
and that
how,
doesn't absolve either of them of their responsibility.
yeah, and it's almost the fact that if you have a system like this for long enough, it's inevitable that you get an Anakin,
Yeah.
because you're going to continue putting people in this situation. Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's like always, hoisted up as the best of the Jedi, he was almost willing to leave the Order because, listen, falling in love with a man or a woman is natural, and
Mhm.
that happened to Obi-Wan. And it's like, Anakin talks a lot in this book too, like just the anger he feels because he gets to the Jedi, and again, you think when he, like, I made a joke when Anakin left Tatooine, did he have to sign the incel like document like on the Naboo starfighter, or like did they wait until he got back to Coruscant? Because like he didn't know what he's signing up for. All these kids when they're like, for one, he was an old kid. Most of them are 3 or 4 when they leave. They have no idea what they're signing up for, so it's like people are gonna crack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had absolutely no agency in what got them there. They have agency in the individual decisions they're making, but
Hmm.
at the same time, if they've been stripped of any ability to process anything, then yeah, you've set them up to fail basically.
Yeah, especially where it is like, you can make arguments about the romantic stuff, but like parent-child relationship, it's nurturing. You're removing like a source of, and like I always feel a little bit gross when I read they always talk about like how the Jedi nurseries and stuff, and
Yeah.
like how they have like the the wet the wet Jedi, like they're, I just like imagine Yoda breastfeeding like young Anakin, although Anakin was 10. But
It is weird that they made him go through the exact same training as everyone else, including going through breastfeeding again.
yeah, here's how you wash your butthole, Anakin. No, but it's like, that's gross. The fact that they've got these Jedi standing in as their parents, basically. I don't know if you watched the newest Old Republic trailer, but it kind of deals with that a bit too. Where like there's a brother and a sister, and one of them is force sensitive, and she's ripped away, in the trailer basically shows her kind of dealing with her anger at the end, and Malgus is playing on that. And I thought that was really good.
Yeah, is that the
'Cause
one in like the tomb looking thing with
yeah,
Malgus and
yeah,
the two Jedi? Okay, yeah,
they're fighting for the Forerunner Keystone.
yeah, yeah. And then Chief comes in and has sex with all of them. It was
Yeah, I can't
weird.
believe he had sex with Malgus. Did you watch the finale, by the way? Oh my
No,
god, it's
no,
so funny. Okay, all right, I won't spoil it.
yeah, but that's probably going to be a thing that causes the Jedi some problems in the past and in the future. Like this, Anakin isn't even the first Anakin to happen. So the fact
Yeah,
that the
not
Jedi are just unwilling to examine their own problems there is maybe a problem in itself.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, you could have had little Jedi babies running around as well. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah, that's well. They had there was the two siblings in this that were I think twin Jedi kids.
Yeah,
So those weren't fully removed from their parents. That's something.
yeah, and I find like, you know, the the fact that like Ben Solo exists kind of makes me a bit hopeful as well, because it's like, yeah, he did turn evil. Let's not mention that, but like, you know, all the other stuff we've read about Luke, and I'm hoping we get more of this in the novel. You know, everyone's happy. There's a little kid Jedi running around. No one's saying, "Hey, Leia, you probably shouldn't have done that."
Yeah.
Like, so
maybe Ray will reinstitute that rule or something. Probably not.
yeah, you don't want to be the one to do it, because it's like, really, all the other Jedi weren't banging for 10,000 years. You had to, okay.
I wonder where that started. Like, I doubt the Legions of Leto or whatever, where when they were having that war, all the Jedi were standing there like, you know what, that's a long-standing rule. There was definitely a point in the Jedi Order's history where there was like the one dude who was sitting on the rocks, like, listen, everyone,
I can't get a girlfriend. I just can't.
Yeah.
It's not allowed.
I've been seeing a lot of people just going off on their own, and no, that's not okay.
Yeah, the reason
Never
I have a
again.
girlfriend is because the Jedi code forbids it. Check it burnt down, but trust me.
Why is that part written in pencil? You just added that now.
It's like in and I remember whenever I play high school football, there's like the old wives' tale that coaches would tell us. Seriously, they'd be like, no masturbating before the game, no having sex before the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be like, you don't want to use your testosterone. And I'm almost positive that's completely false. Maybe that's where it came from. It's like, we got a big battle with the Sith tomorrow. No hanky panky, and like only one Jedi made it home from that, and he said no hanky panky, no more hanky panky ever again, and that's kind of where it came from.
We've cracked the code.
Yep, literally.
Right.
Yep.
Do you want to give a rating? I think we've covered most of the book as well as a bunch of people's sex lives.
Yeah, I'm giving it a B, because I really liked the character stuff. The plot was boring. Cato Neimoidia was a cool planet. I liked the new characters they introduced. I really liked what it. We didn't really mention this as much, but I did. I kind of talked about the top. I did feel like there was a lot kind of about, obviously I'm North American centric, but to me it definitely felt like a commentary on like acts of terror and how people are being radicalized. It goes out of its way to talk about how like radicalization happens when when people let it happen, when no one stands up to it. Definitely felt like I definitely felt like it was trying to maybe talk about 9/11 or something, or just kind of general wars on terror. But yeah, I thought it was good and bad.
Yeah, I was thinking like either low A, high B. I think I'm gonna go with B right now. It'll be probably something that I look at again when we do another re-ranking episode, which we'll probably do in the next 20 episodes, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah.
Because it actually has been a fair amount of time, I think, since the last one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think we're both gonna go with B for now. I did quite enjoy it. I really like the Anakin and Obi-Wan relationship, especially, which I think is what it's mostly trying to address. So
Yeah,
that's stood out as a positive for me. If like,
which is weird because they're apart for almost all the novel.
yeah, that was something that was like, oh, we're at page 300. Are we going to get them together soon? But like, even at that point, I started understanding more of like, oh, showing them apart is also how it's examining them together. So that I ended up being more on board with that than I started off as. Shit, there was something else that I was going to say we'd forgotten to talk about, which was kind of important, but oh well.
One thing I want to mention is that I read half of it and listened to half the audiobook. and it's narrated by Jonathan Davis, who does who did the Bane
Okay.
trilogy, and he used his Darth Bane book or Darth Bane voice for the chapters, and that's
Hmm.
it. So it'd be like he'd say like chapter whatever Obi-Wan in his Darth Bane voice, and I was like, I'm so happy I'm reading this instead of those again.
Yeah. There you go. Always got to get that Darth Bane hate in.
Yep.
Getting us canceled on
Most
Star Wars
overrated,
subreddits, I think.
the most overrated Star Wars books of all time.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
There we go.
There it is.
So we got a few questions this week. I don't think we got any that were directly related to Brotherhood, but still, first we have from Matrix. I was wondering what platform you use for your comics. You use Audible, Comixology, or another unlisted one?
Don't want to talk about that.
Google Play actually has a lot of the comic books, so
Yeah, that's what I do.
I use that for a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely for
What
all
I
of
do
them.
is I Google the name of the comic, free comics, and then I make sure that I click block
Look,
the
the
site from my browser,
yeah, like
just so I don't accidentally run into those.
if you want to read comics online, you have a few store options that like I sometimes space out of read comics online, and then I have to reread a few pages because I was so spaced out of read comics online that I just kind of go like, did I just lie here and read these comics online? But
Yeah, I feel like that too when I read comics online.co. It's crazy. Jesus.
okay, well,
Veil gone.
it's full mask off.
Yeah, mask off. We did also have a couple of so next week we'll be do we talk about what are we doing next week again? Are we going back to NJO? Or are we gonna do
Next week
news or
isn't Obi-Wan gonna be out Thursday night?
yeah,
So we're
yes.
probably gonna be doing a Friday episode
Mhm.
and talking about
Obi-Wan
Kenobi there,
and the celebration. Um
which
Maybe
might
Glup
have some
Shido,
news
but
out that yeah,
it's going to be a pretty busy episode, so I'll prepare a Glup Shido probably, and if there's no time for it, I'll save it.
because we are doing that every
Um
other week. We did one last week, so
yes. We did have a few more reviews. We've got up to
well
almost
we had
two.
a few more questions too.
Oh, did we? Okay,
Yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
Jesus.
Yeah, fuck, sorry.
Christopher asked, out of all the Sith factions, which one is your favorite and least favorite? My favorite is the Star Wars Tor Sith Empire, because I have a lot of fun playing the Imperial characters who have a lot of great lore and interesting stories, as the most realistic Sith with the best prospects for long-term survival. My favorite is the Brotherhood of Darkness, or my least favorite is the Brotherhood of Darkness, who are a bunch of idiotic chumps. So we got the Darth Bane back in there.
I mean, they're supposed to be that way in the book too, though, to be fair.
Yeah.
Um I like the KOTOR era. Okay, my problem is there's too many different Sith.
Yeah.
And there's too many different Sith factions. I like the KOTOR era Sith, but I mean, honestly, Palpatine's probably my favorite one. I like kind of the mysterious Sith we learn about in like Legacy of the Force. But yeah, I like the idea of them just kind of being around in the shadows for a long time, so it's hard to choose a favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd put KOTOR up there as well. Like they're still in like the early stages of a split from the Jedi.
Mhm.
So they do kind of get into the whole evil McBad guy level. But like Darth Bane, Brotherhood of Darkness is kind of where you get most of the "Have you done your evil for the morning?" And
Yeah.
I just that's too much for me. The one Sith I actually or the true Sith, whichever one shows back up randomly in Fate of the Jedi, I don't hate as much as I thought I would.
Mhm.
But so
Yeah, for me, it's like the Sith need to be a mysterious ancient enemy,
yeah,
and Legends had way too many different. Like, I think canon should have maybe one or two really big. Like, they should have the Sith leaving the Jedi, a big war, maybe them disappearing, maybe reappearing one more time for like a big, Knights of the Old Republic era war, where maybe
well, we
that's
know we have
even
like the Legions of Revan or whatever that existed.
yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of them. Like I would be fine even if they had like 1,000 years of war and then disappear, maybe come back one more time. My problem with Legends was there's like literally 30 different Sith, origin points, and it's
Yeah,
just like you're just having a name for a dude who likes to, kill people.
Yeah. Literally anyone who's a Force user who's not a Jedi, even though there's also Dark Jedi who aren't Sith. But like, if there's no more prominent Sith around, whoever's the darkest Jedi of the day just gets to call himself the new Sith Lord. Like Lumaya and Jason don't really fit that much into the Sith hierarchy
No.
because like Palpatine wasn't planning on there being another one after him.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that does it for our questions for the week. Oh, unless you
Well, is
unless
that
you want to
it?
nominate someone for who's the
We'll
biggest
have to
Star
leave it at that
Wars
question.
incel other than Luke.
I'm gonna guess Ghent, just because he's a huge nerd.
But I don't think he's.
No, Ghent's
I don't think he
fine.
cares. Yeah, like there's nothing
No,
wrong with what Kent's
Ghent's
doing.
totally fine. No, Ghent's totally fine. Um,
There's no one who's like explicitly
hmm.
written as being like just terrible towards women all the time, more so than like
Han
Luke
Solo.
inadvertently.
Yeah.
So it's
Hmm.
more like the accidental, and like Luke gets so much more screen time doing that than anyone else does. Like maybe early days Corran Horn or something, but he's not even an incel.
Yeah. Yeah. Cornhorn's like not an incel. He's like maybe an arrogant prick, but like,
Yeah,
oh, that's a
he
good
gets more
question.
chatted.
Yeah, I don't know. There's got to be like a Sith Lord who like went evil because he swore off women or some shit. Like, let's be honest.
Got ghosted on Space Tinder.
Yeah, I just I feel like maybe Darth Malik. I just get the feeling about him.
Yeah, sure. All right.
Yep.
You said there were some reviews you were going to read, or
Yeah, so these are a few that I kind of just haven't caught up on yet. So we've got Best EU Podcast from Deke. I'm gonna say that's a hockey name in in reference to the NHL playoffs. He says, I'm one of the biggest EU fans out there. It's pretty much the sole reason I'm a Star Wars fan. The podcast is awesome. You should definitely check it out. Thanks for everything you're doing. Thank you, Deke.
thank you.
Mr. Teddy says, just started listening to this podcast and I enjoy how laid back it is. Just a very pleasant conversation about nerd stuff with some friends. Really easy to listen to. Thank you, Teddy. That's definitely what we go for. And then Tiddly Rocker, I think I might have read this one. I'm going to read it again anyway. Wait, where'd it go?
No one can tell you not to.
Yeah. As someone who doesn't read the books, this is just the right amount of summary lore and getting sidelined into a different topic. Corey is fantastic, always fun to listen to. In the effluvious, eccentric, enigmatic, energizing Mr. Justin EckhartsLadder always kills it with the jokes. Keep it up, guys. I think
Yeah.
maybe Telly Rocker emailed us, or did I read that before?
Well, that's probably from when I was thinking of different E words to introduce you with all the time.
Yeah, no, I
Which is
got
a
that
while
part.
ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Or
Yeah.
maybe that was just that stuck with them long enough that.
Yeah, the review's not that old. It's from April 13th, so not that long
Okay,
ago.
yeah, then you definitely haven't read that one yet.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
So guys, if you want to get your reviews ready on the podcast, feel free to send them to whatever podcast app you use. iTunes is the best at collating the reviews. So if you've got an iPhone or you listen to it on iTunes or whatever, I don't know the ecosystem. Leave a review there, but otherwise they usually find their way to us. And of course, if you want to send a question or leave a comment or send us money, don't send us money. Tapcaftransmissions@gmail.com.
YouTube super chats. Oh, what? But I did forget about the Corrin ranking women by their appearance part. That was up there.
But like
But
that's not like an incel would do that, but Corin is successful with women and
it's at the
he's like
center part of the Venn diagram between just like
exactly.
weird behavior and okay,
Yeah. There's like the
like
Stifler.
shit behavior.
Yeah, Stifler and I don't know, famous incel. And then the middle is that.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week. We do still have some questions from before that are about NJO that we'll be bringing up on their appropriate book weeks. So if you sent one of those in, we will be getting to those. If you would like to ask a different question or re-ask a question that we've missed from days gone by, you can email those to tapcaftransmissions@gmail.com. We should have a bit of time for questions tomorrow, unless there's a ton coming out already. Maybe we'll just be like so engrossed in the Obi-Wan discussion that we don't get to anything. Either way.
And be careful about spoilers. Spoilers for the show are out there. And again,
Yes.
the reviews really help, guys. We spend a lot of time